So welcome to How to Grow Your Confidence in Business. And this is obviously a Zoom masterclass, and I've got the fantastic Naomi and Sharon who are going to be contributing tonight and helping me. And of course, we'd love to hear from all of you as well tonight, but we'll talk a little bit more about how this is going to work shortly. So why this topic? Well, for me, it was quite interesting. It's certainly a journey I've been on for a long time in terms of finding my confidence. Sharon was actually my sales coach a few years ago, and I think that was the biggest thing that we were working on, was really making me feel confident in myself. And she did a great job helping me feel confident in selling, which was really important. But about a month or two ago, I was very privileged that the University of New South Wales asked me to do 2 masterclasses for their incubator for entrepreneurial women. And they really wanted to support entrepreneurial women to start up. And this is the founders' New Wave cohort that they run. And they asked me to do 2 classes, and one was on market research and customer insights and customer strategy. Obviously, I know that very well, but they also asked me to do a class on confidence. And I'm thinking, should I do it? Do I feel confident to do that? Do I have the right to talk about confidence? But I decided I do, because I have a journey. And I think tonight is really about my journey. But of course, we all have an individual journey when it comes to confidence, which is why I really wanted Naomi and Sharon, all of you, to be able to share tonight, because I think we can all learn from each other. And that's really what I'm hoping to get out of tonight. I have it. I'm just making sure I've done everything. Yes, we'll talk about a little bit more how we're going to do the housekeeping. And I have hit record, so that's okay. So we're going to just quickly do housekeeping and an introduction. Then we'll have a short, hopefully fun or interesting group exercise. Then I have some slides to share around how to communicate with confidence and what I believe confidence is, and how to cultivate it as well. Within these 2 smaller presentations, we will have time to also stop and get everyone who's interested to contribute what they have learned, what their story is, and tools that you guys have used as well to grow your confidence. And then we'll finish up and take any questions. I am hoping we'll be done by 8 o'clock. If you have to run at 8 o'clock, and if you're running off over 5 minutes, please, feel free to, to close down, and I'll send you out the recording tomorrow. So with that in mind, the housekeeping we have here is, if you have noise at least in your background, please mute. If it's quiet where you are, that's fine. And then you can always unmute if you want to share something. It's going to be led by me, but Sharon and Naomi are thankfully here to also contribute. So the 3 of us are running this, and then obviously we'll have time to share as well. If you have thoughts in the meantime, the chat box is open, and Naomi and Sharon are monitoring the chat box and contributing in there as well. So if there's anything you want to share, please put it in the chat box, and we'll pick up on it as well. And very importantly, take what resonates with you. This is my personal journey, and leave behind anything that doesn't resonate. We're all unique human beings, and we all have different levels of confidence and different ways that work best for us. So just keeping that in mind. And I see May's here as well. Hello, May. So we'll just introduce ourselves. So I'm Christine Bell, and I'm the founder of Spark Insights and Ideas. And I'm really focused on customer strategy and really aligning your business with your customers' needs. So what I do is I use trusted market research tools to really understand who your customers are and what the big growth opportunities are that are customer driven in your business. I do consulting. That's what I've been doing for myself for the last 6 years now. But what I'm really passionate about is training and coaching. And I've been running my own meetup, I think, for 4 years now, where I've just been giving out free training and coaching. And I've picked up a few clients along the way who thankfully have been really good sports in terms of also working with me on improving the training and coaching offer that I'm currently developing. So that's been a blessing to have them help me with that and still paying me for it. But yeah, that's what I'm moving more into now, is training and coaching, because that's where my passion lies. Now, why confidence? Well, for me, that is really important, because I believe, especially in the market we're in now, and I think we can see with COVID, it's becoming unpredictable. We don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow. Probably it's always been that way, but we have obviously been probably in a lull in terms of thinking things are fine, things are, great, and suddenly we are hit by something that none of us have control over. And I think it's really important as a business owner, which is, I guess, what I'm talking more about tonight, is the journey as a business owner, although confidence, I think, applies to everything in life. But for me, it's really important to grow an adaptable, or having an adaptable growth mindset. And I think confidence is a really important part of that. So that's me, and over to Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm your sales coach. Sales is usually a dirty word in Australia. So my mission in life is to really combat that and make sure that people really believe that sales can be noble, it can be heartfelt, and it's extremely human. So I really work with entrepreneurs to help them connect to a heartfelt way of selling without being salesy and icky and yucky. So I've been doing that for longer than I care to sort of admit, but it's like a decade or something. I'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah. And did you want me to answer to why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that I'm just going to go out. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I would say that the vast majority of people who've shown up tonight are here because they're really passionate about serving in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And I think that your journey to confidence is important because it allows you to serve more people. Yeah. And a case in point, something like this webinar tonight, where we've got a bunch of people who are joining us to participate in an exchange of ideas. And so if you're sitting there and you're kind of feeling a little bit nervous about getting involved or making comments, then I'm going to just sort of put out a challenge to you to take this as an opportunity to really build your confidence by coming out from behind the shadows, saying g'day on the chat, asking questions and getting involved, and serve the people that are on the webinar here by contributing questions and ideas. And that's why confidence is important, because it really helps you serve others no matter where you are. It's not just about serving your clients, but serving wherever you are.
And, I think that's such a great point you made there. And what I found is, funny enough, working with a lot of small businesses in my meetup group is that, and I know that in myself as well, we often become a little insulated, when we start our own business because we're on our own. And that's actually, for me, was the most important thing, was to get myself out there and to network and meet great guys like you guys and learn to pitch myself and learn to feel comfortable selling me.
Oh, no.
I know, but, it's been, it's not always easy, but it's well worth it once you start it and you keep doing it. So thanks for sharing. I'll just move let me just get here, onto Naomi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Naomi Jaramjuk. I'm a brand designer and advisor. And just like Sharon, I've probably been doing this far too long to admit. I've been a qualified graphic designer for over 25 years, in fact. So yes, I'm a bit old. That's fine. I think the main reason, look, I think everybody definitely goes on their own confidence journey. For myself, it's very personal. And in the last few years, I've undergone a huge transformation in terms of, I guess, my mental health. I was in a very long-term damaging marriage and spent the last few years really working on my mindset. And I think in terms of what I do, because I have to, provide design on the daily, that really knocks around with your mindset. And so you've got to make sure that you're working on yourself and you're building your own confidence in order to serve others, exactly what Sharon said. And I really believe that confidence is at the core of who you are as a business owner as well. If you are really centered in who you are, you can really represent your brand the most optimum way and attract customers to you, because as a business owner, you are your brand. So it's not just about the perception of your brand, as and I'm sure May would definitely agree with me here. It's not just about your brand and the way it looks and making sure it's consistent. It's about who you are and how you represent that.
Absolutely. And I think, I find confidence is a very attractive thing in other people. And if I want to buy from someone or their offer, I want to feel confident that they have confidence in it as well themselves, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I'm very much a big believer about confidence in networking as well. So, definitely exactly what Sharon said. Everyone who comes to events like this is on the same playing field because we are all wanting to learn. We're all wanting to learn more. And so, never think that, be daunted by opening up and sharing in the chat and offering a little bit about yourself, being a little bit vulnerable, because in vulnerability there's so much learning, and it's wonderful, and it's a safe space because we're all here for the same reasons, to learn and share.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I will tell a little bit about my confidence journey too, and it's very similar. Well, it's different to you, Naomi, but it's also similar in some ways, as in I didn't grow up with confidence. I didn't have it ever really. I had courage, which allowed me to do a lot of things and made me do things like showing up at networking, doing talks, doing webinars. But confidence wasn't my key trait, and I've really had to work on it. And it's come from childhood, and we'll talk a little bit more about where confidence comes from, or why we lack it. Sometimes, some of us. But really, I started my confidence journey, I would say, obviously, it's always been part of my life. But what happened in my career, and I also worked for many years, so over 18 years working for other companies, I burned out 3 times quite significantly. And it wasn't just the hours. It was that I had a lack of confidence in myself. So I always put so much stress on myself when I was completing things. Was it good enough? Were they going to like me for it? Were they going to be happy? Always trying to service other people better, but really being thrown if someone wasn't happy with something. I would take it upon myself. And with that comes that lack of emotional strength. And so you go down emotionally and mentally as well. And that happened to me. And one day I literally just walked out of my job. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't work for other people anymore. I knew that this was time for me to work for myself, but also to really work on myself and to get to know myself. And that was when I was in my early 40s, 6 years ago. And it's been a journey. It's been a real journey in terms of really getting to know myself. And as I was starting to work for consulting, I was doing, working for myself, but consulting for the big companies again. And I found that then I was stressed about when is the next income coming in. So now I was working always hard to please in terms of working faster and always saying yes to project. And what did I do? Burned out a little bit again. And then COVID happened. And yes, I was upset because literally overnight, there was no one doing qualitative face-to-face research at all. And it's come back a little bit, but not 100%. But it also gave me time to really dig deep into myself and get into training and coaching and working out how can I help startups find the confidence in terms of building a business that is really about them, but also about what the customer's needs are. So this is really where I'm at. So what happened when I was doing my training and coaching was I had to put myself out of that. I had to actually start selling myself. And I was pretty confident doing market research in focus groups because I was used to having clients see me. I got comfortable with that. And you do learn with practice. There comes confidence in practice and knowing what you're doing. But what happened was when I suddenly was working for me, was that I was actually selling me and I was selling my thoughts and my ideas. And I felt that suddenly really was a whole nother level of having to stand up for myself. And I was not comfortable. I did put myself out there and I started my meetup group and I started offering talks at WeWork. And the first one I did, I had 111 people sign up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Thankfully, there was torrential rain, so I only had 40 people show up. I don't know if Sharon was there the night, but she's been really helpful to me over the years in terms of really getting my confidence and doing talks with me and working with me. So that's been fantastic. And I did it. And you learn from there, but it wasn't easy. And selling wasn't easy for me either. So this is why I thought, well, there's going to be more people than me out there who will benefit from really building their confidence. So that's really the story of me. So over not just the last 6 years, but what I've also seen generally in business over the years, and I love your thoughts on it as well, is that I've seen 4 big triggers when it comes to startups and small businesses, confidence triggers. And one is getting feedback from real customers. This is what I've learned through my meetup. I have been surprised by the amount of people starting businesses who have yet to speak to one of their potential customers. about what they want, what they would like, what they think of their ideas, and how we can align their ideas with their needs. Most of the time people say, oh, I don't have time for it. I really need to get my website done. I need to start selling. And that's true. We need to get going. But we also need to have a strategy and a plan. But what I find is the biggest obstacle to people doing their own research is, one, of course, they don't always know how to do it. But it's that confidence part of, what are they going to say? Are they going to like it? Are they going to reject it? Is that going to stop me from realizing my dream if they don't like it? So I thought that's really important for that particular point of view. But also, as Sharon and Naomi talked about as well, pitching your business idea to others. That is specifically when you have investors, becomes even so much more important, obviously, to make a good impression. But even just doing a networking event, it's the best place to start, one-on-one, to just put yourself out there and tell people about your ideas and your pitch for your business. Selling, that was me, and Sharon knows that as my sales coach, I had an absolute fear of even approaching anyone, including all clients, when it came to saying, hey, do you want to work with me? And that's something to overcome. And then obviously comes public speaking and talking to large audiences, whether it's online or face-to-face. It's triggers. So I think, have you guys seen the same, Naomi and Sharon?
Absolutely. I absolutely see that, especially when I'm working with somebody who's actually going through a transition or a sea change in business. They may have had another business before, or actually be working as a staff member in another business. And then especially, during this COVID time, they think, okay, I need to change. I need to pivot and change out of the business and move into an area which is completely different. And it is that confidence to know that they're doing the right thing. Or is it just a big dream? Well, we look at a whole series of aspects of that in order to gain confidence. I do what's called a discovery session as the part of a first project, which goes for about an hour and a half. And we really flesh everything out, and all of that comes to the fore. Yeah. And you find often through that process that a person would gain confidence just within that meeting. And by, I guess, it uncovers a lot of aspects of that. And we really find out whether that person is actually ready. Yeah. Are they ready to do this? Because it's a huge undertaking. Yeah. How do you find it, Sharon?
Yeah. I mean, pitching and selling is one of the things that business owners really, really do often fear. And the reason for that is because they weren't born salespeople, and there's this kind of perception that, it's that extroverted person who's just born naturally sort of confident. And I think that's a real myth about confidence, is that some people are born with it and some people aren't. And I think what they're mistaking is the difference between being an extrovert and being confident. So people often will mistake extroverts for people who are really confident, and they're not necessarily confident. They're just born as a personality trait as an extrovert, but are dying inside. You just don't know it, because their personality trait is that of being more extrovert. And often it's introverted people who are more likely to be introverted, who are like, oh no, I could never sell myself. I could never pitch, because I just don't have the confidence that somebody else has. The reality is that confidence is built. Confidence is something that you grow through experience and over time. It's not something you're born with.
I find something, I think, that you raised there very, very interesting. So you find that, so take, for example, somebody who is working in, say, car sales, super, super overconfident to the point where of being obnoxious and turning people away. So there are those aspects of confidence which is kind of offensive, to be honest.
And it's almost overconfident to the point that it's probably not anchored in real self-worth. It's more a lack of something, some overcompensating.
Yes. And so there's that perception, is that what confidence should be? No, it shouldn't. Everyone is an expert in their own field. And so it's taking and harnessing that and feeling comfortable with the level of expertise that you can bring and value that you can bring to a client, to a customer, and sharing that with them. And I think that's very introspective to look at, and, you know, and be proud of who you are, and take that and use that, harness that confidence and bring it out to the fore, because it's using all of those skills and your talent and, you know, bringing that out, that's what's going to attract them and engage them and want them to work with you.
Fantastic. I totally agree. And I think we'll get more into more of these points later on as we talk more. I have a little exercise that we thought would be good to do, and it's just a very quick little one, and then we'll obviously love to open it up to the floor. So the exercise is just thinking about yourself right now, and obviously we have days, especially women, I think, where we're a little bit up and down depending on the month or the time of the month. But where are we when it comes to our levels in confidence in business? You know, 0 being I have little, no confidence, and I feel tense, stressful in my body, or 10 being I'm extremely confident, I feel really at ease. And just think about yourself. What score would you give you when it comes to your level of confidence in business? You might feel that there's some areas you're a lot more confident in versus less confident areas as well. But yeah, if anyone wants to share, we'd love to hear from you. You can share in the chat box as well, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, I just, Simon's just said here, thank you, Simon, 9.5 out of 10. So rock and roll, Simon. I'd love to know, is that in all the areas of business, or there are some areas that you know, feel like you're not as confident as others? That would be an interesting, or is it just, you know, you're a consistent 9.5 out of 10, which is amazing. Yeah, made an 8. Yeah, go for it, Simon.
If it's in regards to what I do and how I do it, I'm very confident in being able to talk to groups of people. Like I've stood up in front of thousands of people at once in group.
Right.
You know, I'm always the first person to put their hand up and you know, present something to the audience. But if it's in and around what I do and how I do it, because I've had 30 years experience, so you know.
So was it always like that, Simon, or do you remember back when you started how you felt?
Oh, look, I remember my very first presentation. I was thrown in the deep end at the last minute, and there was an auditorium of, I think, about 750 people. And I was going that day, this is a number of years ago, of course, but I was going that day to be in that audience, not to stand up on stage. And someone didn't turn up, and they said, come on, Simon, you know, pull on the boots and you can do it. So it was just that instant, like, oh, okay, what am I going to talk about? And as soon as I arrived in my own mind about what I was going to talk about, I was fine. Absolutely.
Oh, good.
So I just got up there and spoke. And
Okay.
and I think one of the key lessons in that is not looking at the audience as 750 individual people. You concentrate on one person. So I was taught very early on in the piece, just pick out one person in the audience and talk to that one person. So it might be, you know, a lady sitting in, you know, row 4 or 5 that's got a red jumper on. Just talk to that one person. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking to 5 people or 500 people, it has no relevance. It's just the same.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else who wants, thank you, Simon. Anyone else who wants to share before we carry on? May?
Hi.
Hi.
So thank you very much, you know, for such a great event. I think for me, the confidence, so I'm in brand strategist and a marketeer, and but it's an organic journey. I've always been the fly on the wall, but eventually, I think for me, it's this whole mantra: step out of your comfort zone and step up. And there'll be quantum leaps on certain days, but other days it's just that tentative one little step.
Baby steps sometimes is important.
It's progress,
Yeah.
it's momentum, it's motion. And that is a bit of encouragement for yourself. But also around you, hopefully you're building up your inner circle, because we are humans. I'm an introvert. I'm also an extrovert. I love it when there is a validation from my inner circle. Simon is one of them. Naomi is another one. Whereby those around you, you take counsel from them.
Yeah.
They see the potential in you and believe in you more than you believe in yourself sometimes, because we are, as Naomi says, the worst critics of us, of ourselves. So others who are close to you do see the greater potential and the better version of us. So we always need to, I think, surround ourselves with those trusted.
I think that's such an important point. I think we'll touch on it a bit later. That's such an important point. So thank you for sharing. In the interest of time, we'll move on, but we'll have more time to share. And in the meantime, feel free to share in the chat box. So self-confidence, I looked up what it is, and it is a feeling of trust in one's ability, qualities, and judgment. So it's really about self-trust. The more we trust ourselves, and I think, Simon, you talked about that as well, that's when we get that real sense of confidence in ourselves. So it's about building that self-trust. Now, the one big thing that I really have understood about myself in my journey over especially the last 6 years is I've really looked at my self-worth and what is my source of confidence. Does it come internally from a really healthy self-esteem that, like to Simon's point, I feel very, confident in myself. I feel good about myself. I know that I love myself. Does it come from that? Or do I rely on external situations or other people to feel confident? And I must say, until I really got to know myself better, I was mostly relying on other people and situation for me to feel confident. Yes, practice was important. And of course, that was in some way authentic confidence, because if I do a job for 20 years, I will eventually get really good at it. But when it came to other parts, especially running my own business, I was still looking for some extent for validation or praise for someone, or a situation to happen, a job to come through. I think other people, do it through titles or, your family name. There's all sorts of different ways that we look to feel confident. The only problem with doing it externally, as much as it's nice to have a compliment, and I love getting a compliment, don't get me wrong, but if we rely on it, we're never going to be able to trust that it will stay. It will also go, because we only feel good for another 24 hours. And then the self-critic comes back going, oh, maybe they didn't really mean it. All that self-talk comes up, or at least it did for me. So I think it's really important that we individually just go, okay, how much am I relying on other people or situation versus how much does it come from inside, no matter what happens. And it's usually in the moments when things go wrong that we start feeling the pressure physically. And for me, that's where I have noticed, learning from myself, is that it's often a result of, and it doesn't have to be big things, but it's unconscious traumatic upsetting experiences that we had in childhood that caused us to shut down, doubt, or blame ourselves. I remember when I was from 8 to 12, 13, I had a Danish teacher who was my main teacher. I couldn't spell that well. Danish is not easy to spell in. It doesn't make any sense anyway how they spell, but I wasn't very good at spelling. She wasn't very good at teaching me. So she blatantly, in front of everyone in my class one day, told everyone that I wasn't good at this and that I needed to go to a special class with special people because she couldn't teach me. And it was such a breakdown for me to have that happen to me. Of course, I went there and I was there for 3 sessions, and they said, you are perfectly fine as you're not dyslexic. She's not teaching you the right way, or she's not giving you enough time. So then I got back to the class and she was upset by that. So by the time I finally got to leave that school and go to a private school instead, she actually said to me in the meeting, you're to my parents in front of me, said, she's not going to amount to much. She's not going to finish high school. And there I set off a trigger, a pattern, which was all about, I need to work hard. I need to work really hard because I need to overcome this. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be successful. And it's a small thing, because I can tell you, it doesn't make much sense, but obviously it made a big impression on me, and I was already vulnerable to believing what other people told me about me. So that's where it came from. So I had a fear of judgment, abandonment, rejection, and failure even. I needed validation, and it was a codependent relationship in many ways with different people. And I was really sensitive to feedback and people pleasing. That's what I did in my career. I was all about people pleasing, and it was exhausting, and I burned out. And I don't know if you guys recognize that feeling especially when things don't go to plan, that physical feeling with fight, flight, or freeze trigger. And that's when things go, oh my God, what do I do next? And that has happened to me as well when I'm doing talks, I must admit, or selling, so it's about learning, I think for me, learning to manage that physical trigger as well. I don't know what you guys think, Naomi and Sharon.
Yeah, absolutely. I share definitely, like Sharon said, I share those experiences. I was bullied 3 times throughout my childhood, so right from very young to through in my teenage years. And I look back now. I've done a lot of work, as I mentioned earlier, just in these last sort of 3 to 4 years, and really working on my mindset, and that uncovered a lot for me in those moments and where those triggers started from, and what they have brought up for me as an adult, and what aspects of those. And so I guess for me, by addressing those parts of what that rejection and what that fear of failure, that sense of self-worth has identified for me, working through those in a very deep way, has really helped my confidence. And I
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely. I implore those who have actually mentioned in the chat, you've rated yourself, maybe 3, 4, 5, to perhaps, be a little introspective and go, you know what, maybe there's some things that I actually need to address. Because as a business owner, and if you have a huge dream, to really address those aspects of yourself by looking introspectively, it can have huge impact on your future journey. And I can tell you right now from personal experience, it's absolutely incredible and really will set you free.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, it's worth, I mean, I agree. I'll second that. I've, had spent a lot of money on personal coaches, and I don't regret a penny of it, because it was really important for me to be able to lean into some of the unpleasant things that happened to me when I was a kid, and even as an adult, and what I made that mean, and how that was limiting my success. And if I didn't engage the services of a professional, it's really hard for you to be able to do that on your own when you're sitting inside the box with the problem. It's really hard to sort of see what the solution is. And facing some of that stuff that hurt, and leaning into being vulnerable builds confidence in and of itself, let alone upheaving some of that sort of beliefs that you've created. You're leaning into something and you start to recognize the metal that you're made of, because you've faced something that's kind of a bit uncomfortable. So even that process alone helps build confidence, I believe.
Yeah, and I think what happens as well, we become conscious of the patterns that keeps us in the same way of behaving, like with me with burnout. Now, with understanding myself, I was able to go, hold on, here's my pattern. And I could catch it as it comes up, and not always immediately, but I'm becoming better at that, where you catch it and you go, hold on, I'm going to behave differently this time. And that's when you start to actually really unravel your life, and it comes through in a whole nother way in terms of shining as who you really are.
Yes. That's those baby steps. So because there is a fear in going, okay, now I've uncovered exactly what it is. Well, what are the tools in my kit bag? What do I look like now when something triggers me? How am I going to react? And really managing that, and it's baby steps in forming a habit as to, okay, well, I'm actually going to make change in order to move forward in my life.
Wonderful. I'm going to go through some of the slides a little faster now, because I think we touched on a lot of it, and then we'll have a little bit more time to share if that works. I'm just interested in time. So communicating with confidence, this is what I found, and this comes back to also creating or developing a adaptable growth mindset, which I think is so important in business and as leaders and as communicators, selling yourself and your brand. And the 4 ones I found is confidence, which is what we're talking about tonight. It's really about trusting yourself. It's also trusting other people's intentions when they give you feedback. Yes, there's going to be some people who aren't necessarily coming from the right place, but most people generally want to help. So if you feel confident in yourself, it's a lot easier to listen to other people's ideas as well, which comes back to curiosity. I think curiosity is really, really important, being interested in other people, who they are, and also their ideas, because by hearing from others and learning from others, we will create something that's even more amazing. Courage to feel vulnerable, which we talked a lot about tonight, and also feeling open to sharing your own ideas, to share it with others as much as possible, pitch your ideas, your business, etc. Do it as many times as possible, that Sharon talked about as well at networking events. And compassion for yourself, because it is hard sometimes, and there are going to be failures where you think, oh, that didn't go well, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Have compassion at that time, and also for others, because being on this ride, I have really found it, to May's point, having in a network of people that you meet who are business owners is so important, to feel good about yourself, especially on those days when things aren't quite, the way you want them. So, and this is, Sharon will talk more about this because this is something I learned from her when I did my sales training with her. And this is to recognize your own preferred communication style. So being introspective, but also learning how other people communicate or prefer to be communicated to. And she showed me this amazing tool, or took me through this amazing tool called Extended EDIS. So I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit now, Sharon, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay, great. So I've got a question for you all. Once I finish, we'll come back to Simon. Had a quick sort of little contribution that he wanted to share. So we'll come back to you, Simon, in a bit. But I just have a question for you. I'd love you to pop in the comments which bird you think you are. Are you a wise, all-knowing owl, very observant, quiet, fantastic predator? But a strategic predator, a quiet, strategic predator? Are you a beautiful, peaceful dove, and you just want everything to be harmony and on earth? Or are you like a peacock, where you really want everyone to have a great time and you want to have a party all the time? Or are you like an eagle, solo, flying high, getting your prey, feeding your babies? Okay, so Simon has said owl. Okay, so more observant, Annabelle and owl. May, eagle, to the point. Carolyn, dove, beautiful, peaceful. Christine, naming. What are your thoughts on what you are?
I was a peacock slash owl. I'm sitting right between the peacock and the owl, and sometimes I'm more expressive than the peacock, but the way my mind works, sometimes it's more like the owl.
I think I'm the same. I think it depends on the situation, and everyone's different, and I think you can slip in and out of different personalities in different situations. Yeah,
and there are different areas, aren't there?
That's true, and that's a really great key to what confidence can look like. Naomi, if you said that you're an owl, right, or maybe not just an owl, but like owl, eagle, is that right?
Yeah, owl, sort of, well, dove, owl, peacock.
Dove, owl, sorry, dove,
definitely owl. Not an eagle.
Yeah, so as a sort of dove and owl, what you're probably, and it's interesting that you brought up that point. I'm just going to use this as a really great example because I think it's a great case study in and of itself. You brought up when we were talking about sales, you brought up that, sometimes those salespeople who are car salespeople and they're like really out there and they're really into it, and you find that kind of offensive. Yeah. Well, that is the birds and confidence in itself. So what you're finding is that energy is just way too overconfident for you. But if you put that same energy with someone who's of a similar energy, more than likely there'll be fireworks, it'll be really great, and all that stuff, presuming that person has heartfelt intentions. We can smell a rat. Yes. So I'm not meaning that, but it's the approach, right? So overconfidence can be perceived in your opposite sort of energy type. So eagles and peacocks tend to be more extroverted in a personality sense, and they tend to display what we call, or what we might label, more confident, traditionally sort of confident behaviors, where owls and doves do tend to be more introverted as a personality. I'm generalizing massively here, so stay with me. And tend to be seen as more quiet. So eagles and peacocks will often view that sort of energy as too quiet, like you're dull, like, come on, can we get a decision? Or come on, can we have some fire or something? So it's interesting to kind of think about how confidence plays out for you, depending on what sort of bird you resonated with and how that plays out when you're around other energies. So often, for example, even though I'm quite extroverted and very peacocky, if I'm in a room full of eagles and peacocks, I'm not as loud. But if I'm in a room where the energy is a little more subdued, then I will step up and come out of my shell. And that's a really important thing to recognize when in leadership as well, when you're communicating amongst others, that maybe your behavioral style or your personality trait of being extroverted is actually putting people off. And vice versa, maybe for someone who has a more introverted style.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You can actually play confidence depending on the energy of the bird you want to be.
That's a really good point. And I might just move on, just in the interest of time. We'll get to it in a couple of minutes to share.
And then we'll come back to Simon.
Yes, we'll come back to Simon. I think it's all around speaking with intention, which is actually what you're saying right now, Sharon. Be aware of who you're going to talk to and what's the best intention to set. Are you going to be influencing them? Are you going to actually try and persuade them or something? Or are you just looking for information out of them? Like if you're doing research, you don't actually want to persuade them or anything. You want them to just feel comfortable sharing. So being aware of your intention, I think, is really important, and the situation, and that I think, and who you're talking to your point, Sharon. Also identifying with the same time the ideal tone of voice for whatever conversation or whatever you're doing. What's the best way of communicating that particular message? It's so important. If you put the wrong tone of voice with a, like a really upbeat music ad, but it's a serious message, then people are not going to listen because those two are clashing. So you got to match the what you're talking about with the ideal tone of voice is what I found is really important. And then listen first. Really important. Always listen, because people tell you so much about what they want and who they are and what they like and how to communicate with them if you let them sometimes get a chance. And that can be hard because I'm a bit of a peacock, so I can easily talk a lot without listening. But also ask questions. You're the same, yeah. And then ask questions as well, because you can learn so much. So if you're networking, ask questions, find out about them.
I think I think the number one thing actually about networking, well, as I guess in business and in talking with my customers, I actually let them do all the talking, and I'm the listener. Because they basically talk themselves into working with you, because they're like, you listen to me, and it's totally intentional in terms of it's a safe space, and that I really want to hear about them because it builds rapport. And
you're making people feel good. People
Absolutely.
like to be heard, and when you feel good, that's the people you want to work with, especially if it's a personal relationship. Of course, when it's a product or service sold online, you still have to find a way to build that rapport.
Absolutely. But there are obviously, I know Sharon would definitely say there are key things that you can do while listening, and it's the words that you use and how you interject in certain situations to really push that conversation in your sales technique, but in a really authentic and wonderful way where it is a really great outcome for everyone. You feel that, and it's awesome. It's a wonderful result.
Yeah, and I agree with Annabelle in the chat that is really helpful to learn a little bit of acting as well and just become aware of that. Just one point before we share, and Simon, I'll get you to talk a little bit as well. Befriend your inner critic has been really important to me. It's very quick for me if something doesn't go right when I've done a talk or something, a webinar, to get that old person out up there that's sitting there going, oh, you shouldn't have done that. That's embarrassing. That's, oh my goodness. And really be nice to that inner voice.
Yes.
And really, when it comes up, because it does come up, how can you be nice to it? How can you talk back to yourself nicely? Yeah.
Do you know, there's one thing that I always think about is that nobody will ever talk to you as badly as you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And how dare you talk to yourself that way? You should be your best critic, your best supporter, your best fan.
And that's something to learn. It's not something I had naturally in me, because, most of us grown up with parents where it's like you get reward and you get punishment. This is good behavior, this is not. And we, I learned from a mum who is also a critical person. So, we learn from others.
Yeah.
So yes, let's share. Simon, hit the floor, please, if you're ready.
Thanks, Christine. I suppose what I wanted to do was just ask the question, because it looks like I'm the only male here.
Did Peter leave us?
You're the only male that's going to speak, so.
I just wanted to perhaps share, you asked me before, Christine, where did my confidence come from? I suppose I've always been a very confident person pretty much my whole entire life. About 13 years ago, I went through a marriage breakup. My wife in bed with somebody else, and I thought it was all about, what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
My personal family doctor sent me to a person to go and see, a lady, a counsellor. And in the very first session, she actually turned around to me and she actually said, "It's got nothing to do with you whatsoever." And from that moment on, I could have been somebody to sit in a corner and, in a fetal position and cry for 3 months. But I honestly thought that would be just a waste of 3 months. So I actually pulled myself out, and I almost went into confidence overload. And I really took and just went absolutely full on. And I still am that person today. And it's been wonderful. I just wanted to perhaps share, is that what a female would do? Like, is it the same for a male as in a female?
I think everyone's different. I think it doesn't have to matter whether you're female or male. Everyone has their own personal journey, and the way that you react is I guess a result of, your own life path.
Yeah.
I
had a similar experience to you, Simon, many years ago. And I took it upon, I thought it was me there was something wrong with. Like, I actually thought, oh my goodness. Yeah, and then competition came in as well.
Well, at the end of the day now, I'm so much more happier now that I'm with you.
And so am I. I walked away from it. I did choose to walk away from it. I didn't have to have walked away from it, but I chose that.
Yeah.
And that was me going, I know I can do better than that. I did know that, but I still, for several years after that, was still thinking, what was it about me that wasn't good enough? Yeah. Which is my internal story from childhood. It had nothing to do with that person.
And that one word, choose, it's a choice. It's a choice in how we manage our own mindset.
Yeah.
You can choose to ignore issues, or you can choose to go, you know what, I'm going to hit this head on. I'm going to work on this particular aspect because I really need to. And, life's too short. So you're only going to be holding yourself back unless you address certain things. And, as we said before, it is incredibly freeing, and it will, release you from the pain as well.
But you know me, Naomi, I've never ever looked back.
No, absolutely. And and it is about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So Simon is one of those detrimental people that I have surrounded myself with, who has helped me and championed me to move forward on my journey. And it's wonderful.
And it's so important to have a support network.
Yes.
Now, I'm conscious of time. We will probably run over. I hope people are okay with that. The recording is available tomorrow, but I think we're having such a lovely talk. I don't want to stress too much. But is anyone else who wants to share before we go on with a little bit more of ways to grow your confidence, ideas how to do it? Or do we want to, and then talk after that, or do we want to talk more now? We'll move on, but maybe there will be a chance to talk again. So ways to grow your confidence in business. And these are just some of the stuff that I have done. And it's definitely things we've already talked about in this call already. So I have been very conscious, and I think that's what you talked about as well, Naomi, is I've really had to look at myself, address my limiting beliefs here, and you talked about that as well. And I had to heal some of those residual traumas, which were mine to own. These were my triggers, and I had to recognize what was mine versus what was others. So neither to be the victim nor the hero or the villain, and really get out of that drama triangle of being one of those three personalities and find myself. I've also I went through coaching. I went through listening to spiritual teaching. I didn't realize I was never spiritual. This took me, well, I was a little bit, but not, just a little bit. And this took me on a whole nother soul journey that I did not expect. And I found something completely different than where I started out. So for me, when people say, what do you want to do in your business? I say, let's see where it takes me, because this is my soul journey. This is the way that I am finding myself. Some people find it through motherhood or other ways, but this is my way of finding myself.
I love that. The spiritual journey is huge. I did the same. I've done life coaching, Reiki healing, and hypnotherapy, and they each individually had wonderful, impact. And I still do that today, every now and then. And I think it's those triggers which highlight it, and I go, okay, I need to stop. There's something I need to look at, and who's going to help me find that out?
Yeah. I'm just going to add one more thing. I think there's been a few comments about wanting to learn a skill and to upskill yourself in a particular aspect of business that you don't particularly understand. And I think the journey to understanding yourself is one that far outweighs any kind of technical skill that you could learn with business. Knowing who you are builds confidence. You'll have confidence. You'll attract people. That journey of emotional intelligence is worth more gold than
gold.
anything else. Yeah.
And I think it's where it starts. It's where it starts, and everything flows from that.
It's not something, like even, I was about to tell you how old I am. Even if this,
I already come out, so that's okay.
I'm still learning about myself. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you were that way inclined, Sharon. Okay. Interesting. Let's see how that works out, shall we?
But I think it's an ever journey. Once you realize that, it's like an onion you're peeling. So this is not something I'm going to finish tomorrow, but I'm only going to get stronger and more confident and more whole in myself. And I think that is the journey we're on probably in life, is to really get whole in ourselves.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like for a unique perspective. Another thing I found has really changed the way I looked at business, is discovering your values and creating your own definition of success. Sorry, someone might need to talk.
Yeah, I'll take over there. I mean, I think that really stems from what we were just talking about, is knowing who you are, what you'll stand for, what you won't stand for, what your rules are, where you'll show up, where you're okay with, taking a back step. I think that's one of the things that I've really learned from Christine, actually, is that not everything needs to be like this intense, go energy. Sometimes it's time to just chill and just allow things to kind of happen. Understanding what's important to you on the journey helps you with confidence, because you know what your rules are. So when you're thrown in an uncertain situation, you're not sitting there going, oh my God, what do I do? You're like, you know what? This is what's important to me, so I'm going to do this, even if it's a situation you've never been in before. So did that give you enough time to recover?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is so true. This is so key to building self-trust. Another thing I've done in my business is, yes, it is important, especially if you have investors, to have forecasting how much money you're going to make, what are your goals. But I've actually pushed it a little bit aside in my business. And what I'm leaning into more is, how do I want to feel? How do I want my experience to be being a business owner? Because I already ran myself down again consulting. So clearly something needed to change beyond just working for myself. And for me personally, I've written down, I want to feel joy. Not all that, I'm not saying 100%, but I mostly want to feel joy in whatever I do. So I make choices about what to do, what to pursue based on, do I think I'm going to enjoy it? Will I have joy out of it? Who I work with, it's the same thing. I've even, fired some clients, and then came COVID. I thought maybe I shouldn't have fired them. But, there was a reason I did that. Expansion, I want to expand. Abundance, I want to feel abundance. I'm not going to, make apologies for that. I want to service people's needs, but I also want to feel abundant in my life. And that's not just money. It's in everywhere in life. Freedom and sovereignty. Those are the values that are important to me. So I put that forward. I don't know what that looks like, but if I put it out emotionally, how I want to feel. When you look at the science behind creativity, it's exactly about that. When you look at customers and how to service them, it's all about their emotional needs.
All about it. Absolutely. I totally cover all of that in branding, in your branding journey. It's all about your customer. It's all about targeting and engaging your customer and how you're going to do that. So, and creating a brand which will, in your particular industry, your particular product or service that you're trying to highlight, and how you're going to do that. And you know, your values and, you know, your vision needs to all align together with that. And you have to really believe in that. And how are we going to create a brand for you which you believe in 100%, and that when you walk out that door and you go and see a client or you need to promote your business, that you totally rock it, and it, you know, it's totally successful. So
I love what Annabelle's shared something here. Annabelle has said, your values are a little like your mission statement, which is a wonderful way to help you in your business. I think she summed up what we're all talking about here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great point. So the last point I think I had, well, one of the last points is practice self-love and care. Well, I had an accident in January, and the last half year for me has, you know, has put me straight into self-care in terms of just focus on my health. And business actually has had to come second, even though I'm like, oh my God, I need to climb the money. It's like, no, that comes second. You will do it when you feel up to it and when you want to. Back to choosing from I want feel joy. And so practicing self-love and care, whatever that looks like, which is personal, I think it's so important to inject that into your everyday life as a business owner, especially if you're working for yourself and you don't see many other people.
I think now more than ever in the last year, I think it's really brought it to the fore. Everyone globally has had to have a big global hug, really, in practicing self-love and care. And it really has brought it to the fore in addressing it. And, you know, more than ever before, everyone's going, okay, well, how do I do that? If you're not somebody who's, you know, used to looking introspectively, you know, for some people, it's a huge challenge.
For me, breathing is really important. I know that's, you know, something I didn't necessarily do so well. I was more shallow breathing. The last half year especially, oh my goodness, I've really learned. I thought I was meditating well, but learning to really slow down and breathe has really helped me. And positive affirmation. I was like always a little skeptical of this. Should I stand in the mirror and say these things to myself? But I signed up to a course with Taysha. I don't know if you guys have heard. She gives great voice. And it was a little course and it was all about self-affirmation. So I started doing it, and I've been doing it for like 7 months now, and I do feel different.
I love what Caroline's written here. How she practices self-care is really monitoring how she's feeling physically and emotionally, and then taking the appropriate response. I think that's really important, because I know how many times I've not paid attention to what's going on in here, and then it's too late. I'm burnt out. Where, you know, I love that, Caroline, just really bringing awareness to where you're at each day.
Thank you for that comment. I agree, and this is one of my biggest learnings. I was not good at it at all.
Being in tune with your body and your emotional responses and the way you react is huge.
And recognizing when you're overwhelmed and tired and triggered, and not beating yourself over, you know, if someone angers you or what's going on in the world angers you, instead of getting angry, you know, oh my God, I shouldn't behave that way, just go, you know what, I had this feeling, this is okay.
Be kind to yourself.
And to Caroline's point as well, be present with yourself the whole time.
I like that. Be present.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm sorry we're running a little over, but it was great to have you here.
Thanks for joining us.
So this is just a thing from Matt Kahn, which I really loved. He's one of my spiritual teachers. I follow many different ones. This is one of them, Love Revolution. In every moment, you and everyone else is always doing the best they possibly can. If everyone could do better, they would. When anyone can do better, they will. While spiritual teaching can give greater focus and attention to heart-centered choices, they're not to be confused with rules used to punish yourself with. Instead of ridiculing yourself with unrealistic ideas of perfectionism, which I was guilty of, most moments of healing calls for a deep level of self-forgiveness, where you're able to truly forgive yourself for any misjudgment in perceptions and reactions by truly accepting yourself, talents, flaws, and all. So I really love that one. And then I think we talked about this a lot, but practice does make perfect in terms of having that experience and building up experience as well, and prepare yourself as much as possible.
Love it.
And then we talked about this before as well, and it's been mentioned by several of you, and including in May especially, getting support from others. like really, having a business mentor. I've had business mentor coaching, sales coaching, and connecting with like-minded people and networking, so important. When I feel a little bit down, even I sometimes do the Thursday night online Zoom with Edward Sear, just because it makes me feel good to see other people.
Yes.
That's the only reason I'm there. Not even selling, I'm just there.
Yeah.
And surrounding yourself with supportive people, and I met, several of you are, also in my inner circle of supportive people who are thankfully helping me tonight, and that I can rely on. Sharon, I've known you for 5 years, and we've become good friends. But it's so nice to have someone that you can rely on and you can be yourself with. All your weaknesses in business is okay.
Yeah.
Along with your strengths, which are celebrated as well.
I agree. And Annabelle's contributed to that too. I think this is a really great idea. And I've taken up doing this a little bit, which is to go walking with friends.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You're connecting with the people that you love and you're exercising. I love that.
Yeah. And this is the final thing. I think in business, what I've found, it's been 6 years of up and down. Roller coaster. This idea, I know there's some businesses who are really fast and they get, big quickly, but that isn't always, as me and Sharon will know from one company, we were with a scale company, that's not always beautiful either when you grow very fast. But cultivating faith and resilience, whatever that looks like that you're going through, because it is challenging to run a business and build a business, and finding a space where it's sustainable and continuing to be successful. So I think that's really, really important, whatever that is. And it's important when you do fail, and we all do fail sometimes, to dust ourselves back off. And I would love to finish before we talk a bit more, for those of you who are still around and want to share. I love this quote. I actually saw, it's one that Brené Brown, who was one of my first teachers, that when I was really breaking down, that I started reading and listening to. And she uses this a lot, but I love this one from Theodore Roosevelt, The Man in the Arena. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll read it out the best I can in my English-Danish. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And I just love that quote.
Me too. I really love that last line. And we talked a little bit about, playing the game and being the difference between being in the bleachers and yelling out at the game that's being played on the grass. And what a perfect time to sort of talk about that with what's it called? State of Origin. State of Origin being played, right? And you've got people yelling and screaming, "Oh, you suck," or "Your mother," or this and whatever, and they're like sitting on the bleachers criticizing. They're not risking anything by turning up, but they're happy to take the credit when we win, and they're happy to blame when the team loses. Like, you don't want to be that one. You want to be the person that's bloody, sweaty, muddy, broken.
I want to live this life knowing that I did everything I could to just be myself, and do what I came to do in this life.
Dare greatly, put yourself out there, be vulnerable in the moment. There's just so much learning in being vulnerable. And what's the worst that can happen? If you fail, pick yourself up. It's okay, because you're surrounded by people who love you and who accept you for all your faults, and will help you on that road and that journey.
And it's only through trying that we get better and better. So there's a lot of winning at the end of this journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it might not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but it looked like something else potentially.
But you know what? There's deeper satisfaction in the win at the end of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're wrapping up, but I was wondering if anyone want to share anything in terms of tools and techniques we haven't already shared that has helped you grow in confidence. May, go on, go for it.
So I just got one. I tend to start off the day, just quiet time of reflection. And then and then I would have planned for the day before. But then I'll go for an ocean swim.
Oh, very nice. Even in the winter?
Lovely.
In winter as well,
Wow.
with a
Nice.
wetsuit. And that just invigorates
Mm.
physical. So it provides the agility, mental, physical, emotional.
Wow.
That's going to wake you up.
That's my little secret.
That's a very, very good, healthy
one.
thing to start your day with, I think. And it pushes the whole life into perspective and business, I think, too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Something you're a bit crazy.
It's cold. It's winter. Stop it.
Actually, I'd like to share one if
Yes.
that's
Great.
all right.
Please.
So, anyway, I've been building an online business, and the technical aspect sometimes drives me completely off the wall.
I'm with you.
So when I know I'm going to have a day that I'm going to have to do this technical thing that I have no idea how to do, and before I even go there in the morning, I sit in meditation for a few minutes. And then what I love to call is like the quality of being playful and curious.
Wonderful.
And I really like feel it in my body, like really feeling playful. Like, you know, when you're a kid and you play a game and you just really don't care what the outcome is, you just want to do it and have fun with it.
I love that.
So when I go into it with that sensation and that state of mind, not only is it so much easier, but whatever I was struggling with the day before, I find the solution right away, because I'm like, I'm just having fun. I don't care what happens.
And I think that's a time where we open up to the real creative force that we all have in us, because we're less limited with everything else that's going on in our lives.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
I think I should apply it not just to the days where I know I'm going to have a hard time with the technical stuff, but I think we could apply this every day.
I think that's a good point, Caroline. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else who wants to share? All good? All right, excellent. We'll just finish off, and we have a couple of little offers to you. So for my personally, if you're interested, I offer a free 1-hour customer discovery session. So it's 1 hour where literally you can look at your business and look at what would you really like to know about your customers or clients that's going to help you. Talk about how you can discover rich customer insights with confidence, and then how do we turn those insights into new growth opportunities in your business. So really it's around getting rich insights into your customers. They'll help you service them better. So if you're interested in 1 hour free customer discovery session with me, please contact me, and my contact details are below. And obviously I'll send out this as well. So hopefully you'll find me, if not here, then on LinkedIn. And over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd chuck something up there as well. I think pitching is typically something most business owners really, really dread to do. And I have a nice, simple, easy formula. That's okay. That just, it will help, build your confidence a little bit if you're prepared and you've got the tools to sort of articulate your value in a way that's really compelling and elegant at the same time. So you'll get a full workbook on creating a perfect pitch, a 45-minute crash course on how to pitch. And then once you've done those two things, a 30-minute strategy session with me so that we can really hone that, tweak it, make it really sharp. So just shoot me an email, and I'd love to hook you up. And can I just give a thank you to Christine's community from me to you.
And can I just say personally, I have worked with Sharon before, so I highly recommend her. She was a great sales coach and confidence coach for me as well, and helped me with my pitch. So thank you. And just to finish off, we're going to finish off on a wonderful quote from you to sum it up, Naomi.
Yes. So confidence is created through impactful brand consistency. That's what I specialize in. So a brand is not a product or a promise or a feeling. It's a sum of all the experiences you have with a company. Absolutely. So that is in everything right across the board. I always bang on about consistency right across the board. And it's not just about your brand, it's about who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now that leaves us at the very end. Are there any questions or anything we haven't talked about that you guys would like to share? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up and say thank you so much for turning up and being such a good sports tonight.
Awesome,
and Simon
crowd.
for participating as the owner and participating full on. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome crowd.
Yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everybody.
much. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you. And thank you, Naomi and Sharon, specifically for helping out. I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Christine.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for asking us.